Hi, everybody. We're here again with Kimberly Ransom, our resident expert in business operations for gymnastics and kids activity centers. And we're going to have a little chat today. We normally want to do these live, but for some reason today, Facebook is being a pain in the butt. So we're having to record it. So we're putting it out there. But just so you know, every Wednesday we're going to post this in the gymnastics marketing group and then around the rest of the interwebs for you to be able to look at. And today we're going to chat with Kimberly a little bit about sustainability, which I know is like one of your top exciting subjects that you really like. Profitability and sustainability are really important to you, Kimberly. So, when it comes to sustainability, I think today it's a bit scary because we're not sure how much we can sustain. But let's go over that a little bit. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, so I think you're right because, sustainability right now, today, as we're recording this is a much different conversation than we might have had 3 months ago, obviously. So sustainability now is kind of taking a shift, right? So our long-term plan 3 months ago or 6 months ago might have been completely different than our short-term or long-term plan have to be now. So those are the conversations I'm having lately is how do I change course? How do I get through this, number one, in the short term, but then what do I do after that? Number one, it's been a whole lot of mindset work to begin with. And I don't know if you've been having the same kind of conversations, but I'm coming into a lot of people that are going through this, this life-changing epiphany of, do I really want to reopen? Do I really want to keep doing this, number one? So they're having to dig deep and figure out if they even want to sustain through this, number one. But once they've kind of come to that realization that, yes, I think I do have the motivation to keep going and I'm still attached to my mission here, working out a short-term plan with them and then a long-term plan with them, that's been the key. That's been the trick.
Yeah, because I guess that's really a big thing is, do you really want to do it? Because there's a lot of muscling up right now, right? There's a lot of muscling up.
Yeah.
And I know that there's many. I've spoken to three. I feel good about this. I spoke to three gym owners about their comments that they said about either seriously thinking about closing or closing. And I have to say, after finishing talking to them, they actually had a little bit more fight in them. And I'm not going to take any of their glory that they actually decided to keep fighting it and that I convinced them to keep going. But it didn't take that much to reawaken their why they're doing it and the reason why they're doing it, which I know is something you're always talking about, is finding the mission, and that's got to be central, right?
Yeah, it does. And the other important thing is that you have to have a close circle of peers that you trust to be able to have these conversations with. You have to have a good group of core people that you can rely on to have those really vulnerable conversations about the continuance of your gym, because you can't have those conversations with everyone, right? So
Right.
that's cool that people are talking to you about that, and so agree there. But I think
sorry, keep going.
oh no, the sticky part, getting through the short term of this, and I think why a lot of people are having these internal conflicts about opening or not is because we're having to, as gym owners, recreate ourselves as entrepreneurs, like true entrepreneurs that are having to find a way to become innovative. If you weren't pressured before to find new ways of delivering your gymnastics service or your product, maybe you never really had to think about it. You've kind of been coasting for a while as an industry, right? In a manner of speaking. And so now all of a sudden we find ourselves in a pinch where we have to get really creative and learn how to find those holes in our market. How do we serve these customers? They still want to buy from us. There's still a demand there. So how do we figure out how to sell them something now? And that's kind of the bridge that we have to cross in the short term.
Right.
But the good news is it doesn't have to be perfect, right? You just have to find ways of recreating yourself and your product right now. But you have to start somewhere and you just have to keep trying. But the good news is your customers don't expect it to be perfect. but that is kind of one thing that we have to do right now in the short term, and that can be really hard,
And I know
intimidating
I
even.
think it's really hard for gymnastics club owners, especially about with that word perfect. That perfect word is a very difficult word because, you know, it's an industry where there's this constant search for perfection in the athletes, and they have this mind of searching for perfection. You know, in our industry, in our marketing industry, I hate to say it, but we believe that it's better to launch at 80% and get it going, and then you test and test and test and test and perfect once it's already going. I know, like from
Yeah.
experience with my wife, who's a gymnastics coach, she would rather feel that it's perfect before she even launches. And you know what that kind of says is that you have an assumption that you already know what's perfect as far as the market is concerned, and usually we don't. Usually the market tells us a very different story than what we think. And I always think I've got lots of great ideas. Can't tell you how many times, like orders of magnitude more, that I've been wrong rather than right. So we learn, get it up so it's actually working, and then we can perfect it with the market. So the market's telling us what's happening. And I'm guessing that's quite a difficult thing for many gym owners to grip, is it doesn't need to be perfect, but
Well, it's a muscle, right? It's just like working out our arm muscles, our leg muscles. It's something that you have to build, something that you have to practice, and it is an entrepreneurial skill that you have to build. So, that concept of just starting somewhere, it's kind of everything right now.
yes.
So getting past that, it's progress, not perfection. That's gold. It's cliche for a reason, right? Because it's true.
I think it's
progress, not perfection.
I think it's an unfair pressure to put on yourself to feel that you need to have it perfect, because what is perfect? I don't think anybody knows under this circumstance what is a perfect opening, what is a perfectly safe building. There is no such thing. No one knows. The experts don't know. So to put that expectation on yourself, I think, is a very unfair thing. And I think, I hate to say, I think many gym owners, that's where that stress is coming in, where they're like, I don't even know if I want to do this, because their mind's thinking, I've got to open this perfectly, I've got to be perfectly safe, I've got to be this, I've got to be that. And it's so overwhelming, on top of the financial stress and the lack of profitability and all the others, and it just weighs you down to the point that you're like, I give up, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's that intimidating factor, it's the overwhelm. And unfortunately, in times of crisis, customers kind of already use that as a reason to make changes, even if maybe they weren't intending to before. So it's kind of this natural transitional drop-off point that at least, we have potential, unfortunately, to lose some customers. Does that mean the demand is going away? No, it doesn't, but it means that there's a natural kind of slope of customer decisions coming. So if you want to be open, if you want to sustain, the name of the game is just pushing through right now. It's just consistency, and it's just staying open. So if that means coming up with some new products that maybe the bugs are not all worked out with, that's fine, because you're still there. You're still there to serve your customer. You're there in front of them. They know you're still an option, and they're hanging on. So in the short term, it's hanging on, right? In the long term, it's repurposing those iterations. It's making new versions of these new products you just came up with. It's finding new ways to get better.
Right.
And I listened to a webinar this morning I hosted with Sarah Fennel-Cooper from Happy Gymnastics. She said something really, I thought it was just perfect. I think we forget that the old business model we had, the old way of running a gymnastics gym, that's gone. That's no longer there. If we keep trying to force our brain to fit back in the mold and to go back to what we had, we will keep hitting walls, and we will keep becoming frustrated, and we will get overwhelmed because we can't figure it out. So let's stop trying to fit in that mold, and let's think about ourselves as a new startup and how we can recreate this to move forward without putting that pressure of trying to be perfect and figure out how to get back to where we were. Yeah. It's not a realistic goal anymore.
And I think the exciting thing, and I think this is usually what for the gyms that I've spoken to that have second guessed themselves from a closing standpoint is, and I really want anybody that's watching this to really take this to heart, is the gymnastics industry and kids activity center, like including dance and anything to do with, the whole kids activity center industry, wasn't doing a great job of how business is operating today. Really the whole industry, definitely gymnastics, was operating like businesses were in the 90s, to a large degree. Now there was a few that were doing things, that weren't, that, and up to date and really, making the most of the opportunities that are here. But the majority of the whole industry is, and this is not just gymnastics, it's soccer, it's baseball, it's all of it. They're kind of like done in a very haphazard way, not very organized, not very structured, not very process orientated. The beauty of gymnastics, I believe, is that most gymnastics gyms are a lot bigger entities with a lot more resources, believe it or not, to be able to do things than maybe a soccer club or a little dance studio. And you can get to the point where you maximize the opportunity in your community, and the possibility that you really haven't been is very high, which means even if there's 20% unemployment, which means that 20% of households, don't have the ability to do business with you, let's say, there's 80% that have, and you've probably been hitting a small percentage of that 80% anyway. So there is opportunity, right? So if you have lost clients, it's not like, oh, I've lost clients and there's 20% opportunity, 20% unemployment, I'm not going to be able to get anyone to join me. That no, that you're not even scratching the opportunities to get people to join you. And like you've said last week, there's probably a lot of things you're not doing to maximize what you already have, because we haven't been doing that as an industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Two things kind of spring to mind. Remember, we don't compete with just gymnastics and just other gymnastics clubs, right? In that kind of dip curve that I was talking about, you're going to be pulling from other people's transitions. So you have the opportunity to keep marketing the crap out of yourself right now because you haven't reached your maximum potential, but also because right now is a fantastic time to gun the marketing, to be pulling from the other kind of pools of people that were going through a natural transitional curve. So just because you might be losing some clients, that doesn't mean that say if you lose 20% of clients, that doesn't mean that you're down 20% forever. And that means that because you've been marketing and you've been smart about what you're doing right now, you're gaining those people back from other areas.
Right.
I don't even remember my second point, but I feel really passionately about the marketing right now, because I think people forget that.
And there is a thing, like back in the 20s, I don't know if I've said this before, I might have said this in the last video we did, but back in the 20s, remember, there's a situation where, the Great Depression hit, and all those businesses that were, brands, really well-known brands, many of them didn't make it through the Great Depression. And there was many household brands that are around today, 100 years later, that started during the Great Depression. And the only difference between the ones that didn't make it and the ones that did was that they marketed. Some of them, like Chrysler, was born in the late 20s, early 30s, and their brand took off through the Great Depression. And now they're still around now. There were car manufacturers, there were household, products that, that were being used that disappeared during it because they stopped marketing. So, when there's a crisis, when there's, a depression or an economic downturn, oftentimes if you have the wherewithal and you do it properly and you invest in it, you can actually supercharge. It's a massive opportunity to supercharge your business, because there's less people making noise and your voice is much more clearly heard, and a lot less competition. And like you just said, and like I guess I said, is just because 20% of people can't do business with you, don't be thinking about that. Be thinking about the 80% that can, and they're still looking to operate as business as usual. And we just working in a slightly smaller market. If you had 100,000 people living in your town, right, and suddenly 20,000 of them left, you still got 80,000 people to work with, and they still want to buy goods and services. Yeah. And we just need to be thinking about how we reach them properly, and then make sure that we're being as efficient as possible, going back to our video last week about what we do with them once we have them. right? Because we want to make sure we keep them. And I know our focus is on marketing and bringing new business in, but where the true value of the marketing is when you keep the people, right? You don't want to have a marketing system that's just keeping you open because you're losing them as fast as they come in. And really you start looking at the marketing and it's a stressful situation, which is not fulfilling because you're like, if I stop marketing, I'm going to close, but this marketing is not building. That's not a good situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of going back to what we talked about last week, I know people are getting to be a little bit beat over the head with the digital content topics, but I can't speak enough about pushing yourself digitally because it's a way to be lean and mean right now.
Right.
And when we have a smaller pool of people to work with, well, you want less overhead, right? You want to be more effective with your money and get the most profit out of the money that you do have coming in. And one great way to do that is to work digitally. So I'm really, really stressing to people moving forward that when we reopen, it's really important for you to think about a way to keep making new iterations of that digital platform that you just built. Throwing away all of the work that you've just done over the past 10 to 12 weeks is crazy. That's an investment. You just made an investment of your time and money. So how can you continue to capitalize on that after you've been open?
Right.
And for a lot of people, they've taken out loans, and even though the interest rates are really low, with the CARES Act, it's still debt.
Right.
And if you're not paying attention to whether you are using this debt as a bridge to help you get through this time, or if you're jumping off a debt cliff, you can get yourself into a lot of hot water. Because if you're just using a loan to get you through as a Band-Aid, you're just kicking the can down the road, right? You're never actually solving the problem that lives in your business model. You're going to always be needing a bridge. So this is a great time to think about maybe using the digital products you just built, market the heck out of it, see if you can get a really nice return on that and start to fix your business model a little bit, or invest that money that you're making after you reopen from your digital content to get yourself some help to fix your business model so you can explode and scale in the new age,
And I think that's a good segue, and kind of like to kind of bring this little chat to an end. I think it's really important. I know we spoke about it a little bit last week, is to have a team around you of experts. Don't try to be the expert on everything in your business. If you do, most good business owners and entrepreneurs have a team of experts who know more than they do about the specific areas that they're good in. Because if you think of and to use an analogy, look at Usain Bolt, right? Everyone thinks of Usain as this amazing athlete, and he won loads of gold medals sprinting by himself. But the reality is he had about 32 guys around him, guys and girls around him, helping him be all he can be. He didn't get there by himself. He had coaches, he had trainers, he had medical staff, he had support staff, he had business staff. He had a whole bunch of people around him that were able to help create the athlete and the brand that was a powerhouse, right? And it might have seemed that he was by himself, but he actually had a whole bunch of experts around him to make him all that he can be. And I think it is important, to be talking about. Obviously, it's a bit it might sound a bit self-fulfilling for ourselves, but Kimberly, you being a business coach, me being more of a marketing expert, my company being a marketing team for many gyms, it's worth thinking about them regardless of whether or not you do business with one of the two of us. Surround yourself with a great accountant, a great attorney, potentially a great team around you that you might have to pay. But the orders of suddenly having that expertise, one, will make you feel better about life, that you can handle a lot more, and two, take you possibly in a direction that you've never been in. And I know a lot of gym owners tend to think that they've got to be the toilet cleaner, the gardener outside, the chief vacuum operator, and the gymnastics coach and the CEO. But that's not necessarily the best way to operate, right?
Completely. Yeah. And, I'm just laughing because I think we've all done it. But you know, I followed the lady that I employed as my business coach for a good solid year before I ever paid her a dime. And in that year, she completely turned my business around. She completely turned my gym around, and I'd never paid her a dime. So that's not to say that you have to spend boatloads of money with anyone, but
Right.
you do need to be involving experts on your team, even if it's just mentally for a while. So
Yep.
that's a good point.
So with that, I highly recommend everybody to join Kimberly's group. Kimberly, you have, or is it it's an invite only group, isn't it?
You are welcome to join. We keep it cool. We are kind. I call it a working group. So it's pretty focused on business specific content. So if you are the owner of a gym who doesn't care about being profitable for whatever reason, it might not be enjoyable for you. But you can go to kimberlyransom.com, put yourself on the email list if you don't want to join in the Facebook group. But those are the two places that I live.
What is your group name, Kimberly?
Maximizing profit for small gyms.
Cool. And obviously we've got the gymnastics marketing group where we have, Kim is part of the team on there, helping answer some questions and so forth. Obviously we got these weekly interviews as well, talking about different things. And, obviously reach out to us, join the gymnastics marketing group. There's lots of information out there. It's not just Kimberly and I and Incredibly Disruptive. There's lots of really good experts that really want you to be successful. Find the people that resonate with you a little bit. Find the people that you feel, okay, they're my kind of people, because hey, I might not be the right person for you. Kimberly might not be the right person for you, but we might be the right person for somebody else. But find that team, build that team around you, and build a company, a gym that is profitable and sustainable. It's absolutely possible even during these kind of difficult periods. And that's where you need somebody to be able to put your arm around who can carry you a little bit through a tough time, I believe. Right. I'll let you have the
Totally
last
agree.
word as always, Kim.
I agree. You said it all. I agree. Thanks for having me on, Andy, and I look forward to being here next week.
We'll see you next week.